Howdy team, happy Thursday. I hope y'all are having a great day already. So here we are, we're looking at the book of Haggai, and we're talking about the temple again. But some of you may have read this lesson and already think to yourself, wait a second, last week we were celebrating just the foundation of the temple being built, and now all of a sudden we're talking about God being upset about the fact that the temple's not been built. What gives? And if you're not thinking that, I assure you, at least those who are paying attention, some of the teenagers are going to be thinking that. So let's kind of fill in the blank here before we jump in. The book of Haggai was written about 18 or 19 years after what we looked at last week from Ezra. And what we looked at is absolutely true. They got sent back to Jerusalem. They immediately got to work. They built the foundation. There was a massive celebration, and everything seemed phenomenal. And then the work stopped. And that's because they began to find, really, the work stopped for two reasons. Number one, they stopped because there was opposition to their work. There were warring countries that kept poking their nose in, and so, that's understandable why it stopped to work. But then the other reason the work got stopped, and this is Haggai's point, is everybody just got comfortable. I have my house, I have my stuff, everything's going pretty well. And this is where we find the Lord and the book of Haggai. So let's jump in. For starters, on the options on how to kick off, I'm not exactly a big fan of either of them. Neither of them are terrible, but neither one of them are great either. If I had to pick one of the two, I'd pick option 2. But here's what I do really like about this lesson, and that is there are some phenomenal questions built into the lesson. I think one of my favorite questions that's in there is the question about, is delayed obedience still disobedience? Now, the answer to that question, of course, is yet, and you can help reason your students through that. If your mom tells you to go take out the trash and you don't go take out the trash, at least until that moment when you do take out that trash, in that time frame, you are disobeying. Unless your mom says, hey, go take out the trash in 10 minutes. But if mom says, go take out the trash, and you wait 10 or 15 minutes, for 15 minutes, you were disobedient. It's the same with the Lord, too. But I would be very curious to see how the students respond when you ask that question. So I would definitely ask that question. But there's other great questions as well. The section of this particular passage that I also really like is the section on our comfort. And it gets in there, and it's like the third page of the lesson. But it brings up the fact that the children of Israel were comfortable, they were set, and so they weren't entirely concerned with obeying God. And I was thinking about that with our students too, and what does comfort look like for them? Because if you ask them if they're comfortable or not, I don't know that many of them would say they're uncomfortable. There's always more stuff that they want, and that's true of us adults as well. But if we're spiritually comfortable, that's a little bit different. But here's what I was thinking about in relation to our students. How many times do we hear students in relation to obedience in relation to corporate worship? Do we hear students using excuses on why they didn't come? Oh, I had to do my homework, or oh, I had a game, or I had practice, or I'm just really tired, or like we come up with all these excuses. And again, adults do this too. So you can bring these things up with the students. Just keep in mind that there's any number of adults that are doing the same thing. Maybe in some cases even their parents too. So this is a learned behavior. But we also pick this up from our spiritual family too. When I say that that's an example of choosing comfort over obedience, corporate worshiping together, meeting together is a commandment from God. It's not just like a good idea. You can look at Hebrews 13. You can look at all of Ephesians or Colossians or Galatians, all of those books that have all the one another's, all the things that we're supposed to do for one another. You can't do those things and thus obey God if you're not meeting together. So us meeting is, in fact, a commandment. And when we choose to not do that, regardless of what our reasoning is, we're disobeying. And in some cases, it is like some of the people with Haggai too. It's just a concern for money. So with the students, not that they're concerned about money, but they're genuinely concerned about their grades. If I don't pass this test, I don't get into college. And if I don't get into college, I don't get a good job. And this is where I remind our students, and we encourage you to do the same thing too. Just like the Lord reminded his people, hey, I'm the one who provides for you. Remember, he said, I'm the one who owns the silver. I'm the one who holds the gold. I would tell them, hey, I'm the one who's given you knowledge. I'm the one who helps you on tests. He's not saying sit around and do nothing. The Lord wants us to study. The Lord wants us to have jobs. But ultimately, at the end of the day, He is the one who provides for us. And He provides everything, not just the food on our table. And so we can trust Him to be obedient with our lives, just like the children of Israel needed to be obedient in building the temple. We can trust Him in being obedient with meeting with one another in corporate worship in any number of other areas in our life, even if that means we have to be a little bit uncomfortable for a while. But it's amazing how God restores that too. Last thing I would point out to you, it says towards the end of chapter 1, it makes this glorious statement about the fact that there will be peace and a greater glory in the temple than even before. That is a really cool reference to Jesus and His coming. We're about 500 years away from Jesus being born, and it's not that the new temple was going to be prettier than the old temple, because it wasn't. There wouldn't be gold walls and all this other cool stuff. What the Lord was saying is, hey, what I'm preparing to do, the peace I'm bringing to you in this place, it's better than gold walls. Guys, love y'all. Excited to hang out with you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.